This is Kimberly Quinn, host of the Mindcraft podcast, and I can't tell you how much fun I have had doing this podcast. I started when the world closed over the pandemic in an attempt to spread some positivity out there and give people some strategies to enhance their own well being and reduce anxiety and all of that. Now, 2 years later, we're still going strong and now listened to by 52 countries across the world. And I've even helped some of my students get going with their own podcasts. It's super easy to do. And I'll tell you, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. I'll just explain for you. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It is a ball. Start today. Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion. Here it is a drizzly day, and I'm just thrilled because it's just serene and peaceful and just so contemplative, and it just says do a podcast today. So anyway, my name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am thrilled to have this conversation today about the Tao of Success. And right out of the gate, I want to Sarah Von Brednek is one of my inspirations for today, and she wrote the book Simple Abundance, and also Sean Aker, who's just a constant source for me. And he's one who kind of, at least as far as I know, began the conversation with how backwards the formula for success is, at least here in the States. And I love my country dearly. It's just true that we have this backwards. So, once once I'm successful, then I'll be happy. Once I do this, fill in the blank with once I get the house, once I get the job, once I graduate college, once I graduate graduate school, once I do all of this and get a partner, once I do all of this and have a partner and kids, then I'll be happy. It's the other way around. Only once we are truly happy, only once we are truly happy can we be successful. So, I've kind of talked about this before, but today we're going to expand past or continue on, maybe is a better way to say it, what Sean Akers started with, and then move towards good old fashioned grit. Because the thing is just that stubbornness, it's that not giving up thing that is so essential to success. And so Sarah Von Brednek in her book Simple Abundance, she actually starts out with a quote from Calvin Coolidge, which is very cool for me because we live in Vermont, and we are now Vermonters. We are, of course, transplants from New York and Boston, and we've been here since 97. So still be called Flatlanders probably, but we very much feel at home here in Vermont. We just love it here. So anyway, Calvin Coolidge, he says, nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more commonplace than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education alone will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Calvin Coolidge. This is actually making me think of something else just spontaneously right now at this minute, because Jim Carrey's got a lot of wisdom out there too. And he was doing an interview with Oprah, my dear friend Oprah. Everybody knows I love her. She just isn't aware we're such good friends. It was years ago, way back when he was before he did Dumb and Dumber, and he talked about he did all kinds of visualization and all kinds of things like that, and eventually manifested it exactly as he saw it, which is very cool. Though the point for today is not so much that it's definitely that, but it's also that he was really clear that you don't just visualize and kind of throw it out there and then sit on the couch and eat a sandwich. I think that's what he said. So to actually, visualize and feel what it's like to be in that place already. So it's not a big surprise, right? And, bring on the good old fashioned grit, just that tenacious work ethic. That tenacious work ethic is what gets it done. So Sarah says this. She said, this is the Tao of success. the way, and like every other truth, it's at once very simple and very difficult. Not the understanding as much as the doing, because the Tao of success is patience and persistence. And I tell you, I was reading this earlier this morning because I put it in the Mindful Times newsletter that I do for Champlain, and this just really resonated with me because the persistence thing I have, the perseverance thing I have, the patience thing, I will admit I'm a work in progress with. Largely, well, who knows really? It's my nature, but of course my ADHD is part of my nature. So, being a member of the Fast Mind Club, I'm not so patient. Sometimes I'll say to people, "You have a better chance of seeing the good Lord Himself than me." Having being patient for that long because it's just hard. I want everything yesterday, and I'm aware of it. I'm just kind of wired like that. So when at the times when I need to be patient in life, because we have those moments, I have to really, really set that as my intention in the morning and put tremendous focus on my day unfolding in that way, because it's just that much harder for me. And when I do make it my intention, my day most certainly unfolds in that way, but I am a work in progress. So, and the patience thing, I think in this society in general, forget if you're in the 88, if you're in the Fast Mind Club or not, patience can just be hard. I mean, we're in a fast-paced, media-saturated society. Many of us, I'd say the high majority of us probably have the situation where our bandwidth has shrunk dramatically. So patience is just hard. So anyway, Sarah continues to say, patience is the art of waiting. Like all high arts, it takes time to master, which shouldn't be surprising since patience is the knowledge of time. Patience is the knowledge of time. I love that. She says how to use time to your advantage, how to be at the right place at the right time, how to pick your moments, how to bite your tongue. Isn't that the truth? There are times when it's not what to say, it's what not to say, right? And when to know to just be quiet. And quite honestly, that's another one I wrestle with at times, especially when there's any kind of injustice going on. I'm not talking about big, huge world level injustice. I'm talking about little micro injustices, like in the workplace when there's power plays and things like that. It's hard for me to keep my mouth shut. I'm just saying that right now. Okay, then she says, patience is discovering the mysterious pattern of cycles that cradle the universe and ensure that everything that has happened once will recur. I have to say, when I was reading this, actually yesterday, it was yesterday, from my newsletter and getting excited about that, I'm a big fan of perseverance. I definitely feel that that is a label or a word I would identify with and allow it to stick to me with super glue because I definitely persevere. And this is because I'm super resilient. And when I think about teaching resilience to my Minecrafters and they come up with their whole list of words, this is right up there at the top. I mean, this is perseverance has everything to do with resilience. And so when I was reading Sarah's work last night and she brought in the persistence part, it kind of shed a whole new light on that I will probably not probably I plan to incorporate kind of into my thinking about what we're talking about with being resilient and with success. And also when I teach resilience to my Minecrafters, I'm going to kind of rope persistence in there in this way. So she says perseverance in life is being steadfast. Persistence is being stubborn. I love that. This is what really stuck with me last night. It's why I chose to use this for my newsletter. Perseverance in life is being steadfast. Persistence is being stubborn. Persistence is grittier than perseverance. Perseverance is achievement's perspiration. Persistence is the sweat. Oh my gosh, I so get that. I love the imagery of that. I'm also I'm seeing a couple of movies come into my head right now. One of them is Rudy. That's one of my favorite movies. And if you've have never seen it, he's a young man who's 5 foot nothing and with moderate athletic talent, trying to make it onto the Notre Dame football team, which he had been a fan of since he was a little itty boy. It just he had his eye on the prize from the time he was like 6 or 7, and but yet he didn't fit the athletic build. Also, his grades weren't good enough to get in there. He just was not what anybody would think is as a fit for such a prestigious academic institution with such an amazing football team. And I think he definitely persevered with applying, but now that I've, kind of read through this, I would say persistence because it was his just tenacious work ethic with, he just stuck to that team like super glue, just never ever gave up. And the sweat part is what I'm thinking of right now. Just it really fits. And then my other visual was the early Rockies before he got wealthier, when he was just trying to bust through and he didn't have the money to train at a regular gym. He didn't have the money, just running through the streets and sweat, 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 just refusing to get knocked down. Kind of like one of those back in the day, they had those blow up clowns where you'd knock them over and they just bounce right back. Or I'm thinking of the '70s Weebles Wobble, but they don't fall down. And just thinking of Rudy in that way. Wow, I just it makes a lot of this. I'm getting like a visual right now for just the sweat and just refusing to get knocked down and stay down. Okay, and then Sarah says persistence is knocking on heaven's door so often and so loudly on behalf of your dreams, on behalf of your dreams, that eventually you'll be given what you want just to shut you up. Oh my God, I love that. And I'm thinking of another one right now because I'm kind of following in these footsteps. Our oldest daughter, it's actually her birthday. Happy birthday today, Caitlin. Beautiful, beautiful kid or young lady. Caitlin turned me on to Aaron Doughty years ago. Not years ago. That's made up. Not made up. Exaggerated. Maybe it's a little over a year ago. I don't know where I got years ago from. A little over a year ago, and he's another one of my teachers. And with the Barney's, selling the Barney shoes in New York, he was kind of, you know, he knew that he made decent money and everything like that. I wouldn't say he didn't say he was miserable, but he wasn't satisfied. He didn't like it and probably was edging towards miserable because when we put up with dissatisfied for long enough or just barely satisfied, there's no spark, eventually that lands at miserable. And so he wanted to be an influencer. He wanted to be a YouTube influencer. But I like his story because he didn't just recklessly quit or lean on, wealthy parents, or that wasn't the case for him at all. And he decided he was out of there. So he just planned accordingly. He just kept making videos in the morning and at night and in the morning and at night and in the morning and at night to get him out there, to get him out there, to get him out there, right? Just repeat, repeat, repeat. Eventually, I'm going to guess he was about 30. I could be off by a couple of years. So he's definitely young. He moved back with, I forget if it was his mom or his dad, which one. His mom or his dad. I forget. I don't remember. Um, but it wasn't comfortable. He'd been out on his own after he'd already been making movies, and he talks about the consistency. Just throw it at, keep throwing it at the wall, throwing it at the wall, throwing it at the wall, and eventually something is going to stick. And he's talked about in his videos the consistency with cranking out YouTube videos, which is also out there. Uh, Actually, we're doing creativity this week in Minecraft, and it talks about anyone who is a creative, identifies as a creative. You got to be willing to make some junk because you just keep throwing it out, throwing it out, throwing it out. And this is how people end up being successful. This is how people end up being successful. Just keep throwing it out there. The consistency is what matters. And so then Sarah says, for example, think of an 11-year-old child who wants to get her ears pierced sooner than her 16th birthday, the age her old-fashioned mother thinks is appropriate. The first request, even if it comes in a burst of emotion, doesn't succeed. Nor does the second, the third, or even the fourth. But the child who goes at you morning, afternoon, and night, week after week, month after month, this child's voice is water to the rock of your reason. This stubborn but patient child wears you down, which is why you end up at the mall on her 12th birthday, shaking your head as you pay to adorn her earlobes with tiny gold balls. I think that is just such a good example. Such a good example. And it's not like, indulging a misbehaved child. It's a child being, I like to use the word tenacious with what we're talking about, just maybe respectfully, but with tenacity, and with tenacity, just not dropping it. Just even though you're not being rude, not being disrespectful, just mom, mom, my kids are they not my kids, the kids in school are all. I've been so good. I got straight A's, and just staying with it till mom didn't really have a reason to wait 4 more years. And then Sarah continues. She says, the potent alchemy of patience and persistence, which together become endurance, must have been what the Lebanese poet Hoda al-Nami was meditating on when she wrote, I have not withdrawn into despair. I did not go mad in gathering honey. I did not go mad. I did not go mad. I did not go mad. If you are determined to gather life's honey, to stick your hand into the hive again and again and again, to be stung so many times that you become numb to the pain, to persevere and persist, to those who know and love you become unable to think of you as a fairly normal person, you will not be called mad. You will be called authentic. So I guess, Minecrafters, that really winds it up. We're talking about patience and persistence as the Tao of Success. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the rainy, lovely, serene northern Vermont. Have a mindful and successful day.